Digital culture, as we know, moves faster than institutions can react. One spark can create a global wave. We'll continue our day with the mechanics behind these digital tsunamis, as Sue kind of hinted for us. And we have a very special guest, visionary CEO and founder of Black Dragon Capital, a global investment firm focused on building scale, innovative technology companies that drive inclusive economic growth and digital transformation. Please welcome Luis Hernandez. So good morning. You have built and scaled multiple global technology companies. From your perspective, what actually turns movement into just a transformation?
Well, I'll start.
Here, take this one, and
All right, got it. I'll start with why technology exists, is to improve our lives. You know, humans have always, you guys hear me okay? Humans have always, sought technology, not for technology, but make our lives better. Mm-hmm. And so therefore, whatever captures the imagination and convinces the human that it's going to improve our lives, it's worth the disruption. Economically, when you're an organization, then you just layer on the economic and cultural realities about whatever the technology is. So, at least for me, that's what's mainly driven this transition.
Do you get just a gut feeling on an organization, or is it a leadership drive, or how do you just kind of know?
There's three things I would say that we look at from an investment perspective, but then I'll layer on the human element. Of course, we have this leadership index where we assess the leader. What's the issue we're trying to solve? How do we solve it in a unique, compelling way? What are the economic components to it? But the truth is, as a fellow entrepreneur, and I'm so happy for the digital underground and what it's become, by the way. Congratulations to all of you. I remember when it first started, and this just, as a fellow entrepreneur, really excited for you guys. So congratulations. It's when you're an entrepreneur, for those entrepreneurs in the room, it's a very intense, very sacrificial, lonely, joyous thing we do, building these things we believe in. And so I think for Black Dragon, as some of you know, most people know me from the DNA days when I started DNA, the core system, or maybe Payveris. You know, the value comes not in when it goes the way you expect, but when it doesn't. Mm-hmm. And that's where the human element. So to the heart of your question, do you just know? Well, it really is about the leadership, because it's probably not going to go the way the business plan says it's going to go. And that's the point of where the differences come through with the leaders. They find a way to win, to serve the communities better, and not quitting until it's done. And that's the loneliness aspect. When I describe being an entrepreneur, people ask me about those four answers. I say, why lonely? What do you mean by lonely? Mm-hmm. You know, they don't expect that piece. And it's because it's hard to explain the reason you're pursuing this thing. Why did I build DNA? Why did I think DNA, there should be one system for a human, not based on charter types or countries? Black Dragon operates in about 100 countries now, just over 100 countries, and we see tech all over the world. And so I wish I had a formula that was just those things, but it's mostly about the person. Naturally, do we believe humans are going to adopt this technology and will be convinced that the improvements to your life, from flying cars that Xpeng's doing in Germany and China right now, will overcome the disruption of cars flying out and no regulation? That's the decision we're going to make. Mm-hmm. And that's really where the judgment comes in.
And it's an intersection between technology and human behavior, right? I saw something that said that a lot of people still believe that face-to-face is the best and the only way. Is that going to be the key forever? Is it only face-to-face, or can we have social technologies that bridge that gap?
Well, I don't know if you've seen digital skin recently, but it's a resin composite. It feels and touch. I failed the test every time. They had a human and this digital skin on a robot, and you put your hand in, and you're supposed to guess. Now, the human's looking at you, and the robot's looking at you. And I swear I got it wrong every time.
No way.
Because the digital skin reacts to your reaction. Oh. And so we're big in the media industry. You probably know we service every major media organization in the world, both long-form scripted reality. We also do sports. We're huge in sports and live events. And I say that because there's this big debate, as you know, about AI and acting. And I still think the authenticity. We had this debate at FOMEX, Future Media in Saudi Arabia, a couple weeks ago. And, you know, the actors are very concerned about the authenticity and not wanting to participate in this kind of thing. I personally think, unfortunately, we're past that, because I looked at this robot with this resin composite. I could not tell. They were responding to me. But that's not, humans are natural storytellers in this example, and we connect through stories. And authenticity is really what connects you. And AI, I have this algorithm that there's only 1,792 data elements you need. You don't need all the millions, because humans aren't that complex. We respond to certain things. And that's the piece that I think will rule the day, and why it's still important to sit here in front of you, and this story that's unfolding becomes more meaningful because of that. So I'm long on humans, if you're wondering, even though I'm a technologist.
Do we think that these online communities and social technologies can build trust?
Trust is very difficult. So we have, because we're big in news, a lot of our technology tools now have accuracy ratings. And this is huge in the Middle East. It's going on right now. And the interesting thing about this is we rate our systems, many of the news systems today will rate accuracy based on available information. But if you don't trust the government systems, if it says the CDC says this is something you should do, and you don't trust the CDC, then who are you going to trust? And this is the dilemma we all have with the graying degradation of our institution of trust. And that's one of the reasons why I think credit unions are in a good position to win, because despite the fact that we're risking relevancy through the digitization of our relationship with our member, we're trusted. We're authentic because we're still in the community. It's not because of the branches, like you mentioned, or more call center reps. That's a mistake. But we have never gone away from our roots as an authentic service of our communities, and this may end up being our greatest strength, not because of what board members tell me, because we have more call center reps or branches, because we've never changed our identity. And that's the problem with trust today. So because we service news organizations, trust is a big issue, because what's your data source that you believe? And when people don't believe anything or anybody, then where does trust start from? And human relationships are based mostly on trust. And so it's a big issue, very big issue.
One of the years in previous, we talked about the fact that most people won't purchase anything anymore without reading online reviews. Does anybody do that? With Amazon, right? You read all the reviews, and yet we're trusting a random human that maybe isn't even a human and taking their word for these products and things. So building that trust has to be a priority for organizations, yes?
Well, you hit it on the head, as they told me you would. Because when there's a book I wrote called Storyteller's Dilemma. And that's bad when I'm so old I can't remember I remember Saving the American Dream. That was about credit unions, by the way. I predicted that if you digitize music, because we were huge into music, we owned Pro Tools for 10 years, it would flatten the yield curve, because music stores and radio play were controlling what we listened to. And if we just digitized everything, it would flatten the curve. And we hear all these wonderful songs we can't have access to. But the reverse happened. The yield curve tightened, because at the peak there was 40 million new tracks a year on Apple Music. And it was so much, none of us wanted to spend the time. So because the institution of trust had been eroded, because we didn't just go to the record store, we started listening to the top 10 most popular. So like your talk, crowd decisioning started taking, we just said, what's the most popular rap music or country? And I'll just listen, and the average was 3.5. And so that was an example where what trust is being redefined. Digitization is changing the way your members think about service, think about trust, and think about affinity. And that's probably the most important lesson, and I'm using that music, because we started trusting a group more than universal music, who are experts and built their business on this. And that's what's happening in our business. And so the question is, how do we take our strengths, use digitization to demonstrate we are the trusted community server for you? And that's one of the biggest and most complicated, I think, challenges leaders have today.
Yeah, it's demonstrated behavior, right? We were talking last night, a bunch of smart people sitting around a table, and we can't solve one of the world's problems right now. Imagine being a young person growing up with all the noise and everything happening. It's got to be really difficult. What do you see from a risk standpoint? What's an organization's greatest risk if they don't keep up?
Yeah, well, so I'll take risk in a few different ways. First, I'll do the easy one. The more we digitize the product we're creating and the consumption of that product, it collapses the workflow, reallocates value and service. And so as a leader, making sure you're in a position to serve your member better, that's agility, that's urgency, that's flexibility, that's the right partners. Mm-hmm. Partners, this is the most we service a lot of industries. I'm all around the world. I don't know one single industry as collaborative, as friendly and cooperative as this group, which only controls roughly 10% of the assets in the U.S. for however decades it's been. It's never changed.
A lot more people, though.
Yes, but not the percentage. And that's depressing to me. But more depressing is the vendor community in this group is the most combative and punitive of any in the world. And it seems like if you're the most friendly and most collaborative, you would have the best, most friendly, collaborative partners. And that's why I'm happy you guys are vetting partners and finding people who care about what we do, because this group should be the beacon for what partnership should be all about. And it's not. And it's sad to me, and part of why I'm here. You know.
And you said, when you said combative, is that competitive, not nice to each other, not nice to credit unions? In what way?
Well, you wouldn't have Paramount or Netflix accept coterminous contracts that never end, or penalties for innovation and things like this. Not to pick on any vendor in the room. I was a vendor that's how I started. I was Open Solutions, I was Payveris. So I'm speaking as one of them, self-reflecting that why would we make it hard for you to serve your member better by forcing you to stay with a technology that no longer meets your needs? That does not happen in other industries. It just doesn't. Even in banking. Some of you know I was on the board of HSBC for years. They would never let those provisions in any of those agreements. And it's given a birth to a cottage industry of all my friends running all these consulting firms just so that we don't get ripped off too badly. I mean, it's the craziest thing I've ever seen. Risk is in the organization, the culture, your partners, and then as you digitize the relationship, the final risk I would point out is, of course, you expose yourself to new forms of fraud, which we've all experienced. And these are the things that I'm most focused on as an investor to serve this community in particular. We serve a lot of communities that I care about, media, like I mentioned, sports, digital commerce. We're huge in digital commerce, which is ordering and delivering things you buy. But those are the kind of risks I'm focused on here in this sector.
And let's talk about underserved communities, emerging communities. How can those communities harness digital waves rather than be disrupted by them?
Well, I think that's our greatest opportunity. We're here to serve the underserved. Unfortunately, that demographic is growing in most westernized countries, and they're very advanced. So it's, to me, an opportunity for a rebirth of our membership. Our foundation gives away 20 college scholarships a year. We set up media labs, fintech labs in partnership with some of you around the country. We have a leadership index. We have youth development and leadership through athletics. And I'm saying this because every time you feel worried about the next generation, I just look at some of these applications of these kids. And they have very difficult situations, and yet they have 4.0s and just want enough money to pay for the SAT to go to college. So there's a very powerful, to me, group of young people in the underserved and underprivileged community that with a little help, I think can be powerful contributors. And that's one of our best opportunities. If we can enable them through our digital platforms, I think we can usher in a powerful and influential next generation of members for our community. I see this as a massive opportunity. If you saw the pictures of me yesterday in my Dragon sports gear, it's because I was all morning yesterday in Miami and Orlando meeting with some of these kids. It's really fun and inspirational and an opportunity for us.
So we have a lot of CEOs in the room of leagues, organizations, business partners. We have a lot of executives. What would be advice that you have to them? Do we keep a practical mindset? Do we just throw everything out the window? What do we do?
Be like her. No.
I like that.
She told me to say that earlier. No. No, I think I mentioned from a business perspective, I think just really forcing, and you had some great points up on your top 10, not 10 top list. I forgot what the list was, but I think it was Mirror, Mirror on the Wall, I'm Your Father or something. Some of you got that, put that together, good. Anyways, agility and urgency are not descriptions of most cultures and credit unions, and it really needs to be. We cannot rely on our institutions of government for regulatory frameworks because they're never going to catch up, and they're my friends, but they're never going to catch up. So it's up to us as leaders to find a way to navigate through those limitations to serve the soul of who we are, which is that member. And this is my greatest piece of advice and why leaders are so important for this industry and this sector. I could go into a bunch of tech stuff, but it would put most people to sleep because it's too early. But that would be my biggest piece of advice, is that culture is really, really important, and embracing this notion that you have to be more urgent and agile in order to survive today. And we all know we're in a fight for relevancy. We don't have to get into the details of why, but the fact that people are peeling off our most valuable parts, our cost structure's going up, the regulatory frameworks are intense. We all know the issues, and so what is the solution? The good news is there is a need for what we do. And that need, I believe, is growing. But we have to connect what we're strong at with a culture that can deliver. And if we would do this together, I really think there's a powerful opportunity. Your organization is putting more effort in finding partners who believe in this mission, and that's maybe the most important thing. So I was really happy to hear you guys are doing that, and congratulations again. I see Susan back there telling me we're probably out of time. But
Thank you very much. Any final thoughts?
No, I just, listen, it's an exciting time for technologists. I grew up technology. My dad taught computer science at the Claremont Colleges and at USC. My son is a AI major at MIT. We're all tech all the time. That's all I ever did. This is in this lifetime that I'm going to have here. It's a bull rush for tech because it's the most cost-efficient way to improve how we live in almost every aspect of our life. So if you're not familiar enough with the tools to improve your service to a member, I would try to stay as current as you can, because I believe it's going to be here for the rest of our careers. I'm speaking as one of the oldest people in the room maybe, but I think it's a fun time because it's such a creative and explosive time to find new ways to innovate to serve your members. And I want to thank you guys for having me.
Thank you very much. Thank you.